This next question, Father, this popped up. This is from Oliver in Southbridge, Massachusetts. Oliver says, "Hello, Father Murray. I very much enjoy listening to you on The World Over with Raymond Arroyo, so it is a true privilege to have a chance to ask you a question. Thank you for taking the time to do the show today. Now that Bishop Strickland has officially been removed as a Bishop of Tyler, I was hoping you could provide your thoughts or initial reaction. What were the grounds for a removal, and why or why not? And what happens from here?"
Well, very good question. Bishop Strickland was removed. It was announced on Saturday by the Holy See that Pope Francis had removed him or taken him out of the Diocese of Tyler. No reason was given in the Roman announcement, which was on the website of the Holy See. So therefore, we do not know why he was removed. We do know that he had been called or had been rather subject to an apostolic visitation, that the Pope had designated two bishops, the Bishop of Camden, New Jersey, Dennis Sullivan, and then Bishop Cacanus, who is now the retired bishop of, I can't remember the diocese, but it's in the southwest of the United States. They had gone to Tyler, Texas, and done a series of interviews with people and asked questions. They made a report to the Congregation for Bishops. And then, according to reports, Bishop Strickland was called to Washington to see the nuncio, Archbishop Christophe Pierre, who's now Cardinal Pierre, and was asked to resign. He refused to resign. And then 2 days later, this past Saturday, the 11th, it was announced that he was no longer the bishop. Now, a number of things are concerning here, because since we don't know why he was removed, the Pope has not told us, we can't make any judgment on whether it's fair or just. We can speculate on that, certainly, because Bishop Strickland is a well-known figure, but the Pope hasn't told us why he did it. Therefore, we can't say the Pope made a good decision or a bad decision. I think it was a mistake on the Holy See not to identify the reason for his removal. Ordinarily, when an act of this sort is taken, there has to be a decree issued by the Pope, because Cardinals or Bishop Strickland occupies that office in a stable fashion. Once you're named bishop of a diocese, you stay in that position unless the Pope provides otherwise. So now that the Pope has removed him from the diocese, we don't know why. We don't know if a decree was issued. And then we don't know what's going to become of Bishop Strickland in terms of canonical responsibility. He's been given no other diocese. He's not been assigned as an auxiliary bishop. We're not sure really what's going to happen to him. That's really not a good thing. This, unfortunately, mirrors a case that happened in Puerto Rico. Bishop Daniel Fernandez of Arecibo was likewise removed from his diocese. He was not given a new assignment. Similarly, Archbishop Georg Genschwein, who had been Pope Benedict's personal secretary, was the prefect of the pontifical household. He was removed from the job of prefect and was ordered by Pope Francis not to live in Rome. So he went back to his home diocese where he is in residence, but again, without an assignment. So this manner of removing and treating bishops as, subject to actions without public justification, I question that. And I think a lot of people do too.
Carlos on YouTube had a question about what canonical crime did Bishop Strickland commit, if any. You answered that prior, Father, right? Which is that it wasn't, I'm not going to say the terms right, but it wasn't posted particularly, right? So you can only speculate, but we don't actually know. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yeah. In fact, we have not heard that he's been accused of a canonical crime and that a canonical crime was investigated and determined to have occurred. So removal from a diocese is ordinarily a penal measure, meaning it's a punishment, or it can be done if a bishop is found to be impaired, physically or psychologically and unable to carry out his responsibilities. But there's no indication he committed a crime. Certainly, Bishop Strickland is one of the most media-savvy bishops there are, and he had spent a lot of time, on Facebook and Twitter and the like, defending the faith. And that area is perhaps where his problems were created in the eyes of the people in Rome. So we don't know exactly because, again, the Pope hasn't told us.
Canon laws are laws of the church, and there are particular laws that govern the laity, right? There's laws that govern canonical cases, right? But when it comes to the Pope, I've heard historically, right, that we might say that a Pope is still like one of the last absolute monarchs, so to speak, in terms of governance. So a Pope does have the authority to kind of remove or add a priest or remove or add a bishop, correct? In this sort of case. So he doesn't necessarily have to give an instance. That would be fair to say.
Well, the Pope has the power because canon law is subject to him. So, when the laws are issued, for instance, the Code of Canon Law was issued in 1983 by Pope John Paul II. That code was an update of the 1917 code, which was issued by Pope Benedict at the time. But the Pope is subject to the law, just as are the rest of Christians, the Catholics who are part of the church. He can dispense himself from the law. He can dispense others from the observance of the law. But at the same time, canon law is an instrument to promote divine justice in the world. So actions that are done in view of promoting the good order and promotion of the gospel in the church, ordinarily they're going to be according to the provisions of canon law, because canon law is not an obstacle to promoting the life of the church. Removing a bishop, however, is sort of an act that has to be related to some reason. And if a reason is not given, then there's a lack of charity and justice there, in my opinion, because the bishop is not told what he did wrong and therefore can't either explain or defend himself against it. Now, perhaps there was a decree that was given to Bishop Strickland. We haven't heard that. He hasn't said that as far as I know. But the removal of a diocesan bishop also concerns everybody else in the diocese. They need to know why this bishop was removed. And then the rest of the hierarchy in the United States and the world needs to know, why was their brother bishop judged not suitable by the Pope to continue to run his diocese? So, the Pope is, to say he's an absolute monarch is both true and not true, in the sense he is a monarch because he has the supreme authority, but absolute in the sense of being able to void divine law or, give exemptions from the natural law. No, you can't do that. The Pope couldn't authorize you to lie, for instance. At commandments, there's an expression called ultra vires, beyond his powers is what it means. So some things are beyond the powers of even the Pope. So we have to respect the 10 Commandments, the law Christ laid down, and the natural law. And when that doesn't occur, then you can have injustice in the life of the church, and then you can protest. Another aspect of this is to say, well, since the Pope removed Bishop Strickland, we all have to agree that that was the right thing to do. And that's simply not the case. We can say that the Pope made a mistake and not be offending the Pope in doing so. And that's just on a practical level. The Pope removed a bishop in Chile called Bishop Barros because he had been found to be an accessory to sexual abuse of minors by another priest that Barros was an associate of. But until the point he removed him, the Pope was defending Barros, saying that he was subject to calumnies, meaning false claims. Various people told the Pope, Holy Father, you're mistaken. There's a good case against Barros. So what did the Pope do after that public pressure, which it was? He sent investigators to Chile. They came back with a report, and Barros was removed. So in that case, we see that disagreeing with the papal defense of Barros wasn't something wrong. It actually promoted a good thing. So in the same case with Bishop Strickland, if you're not happy what the Pope did, you shouldn't view that as a lack of loyalty to the Pope. Rather, it's an act of saying, Holy Father, I think you haven't appreciated the nature of what's going on here, that this Bishop Strickland, as far as we know, has done nothing to deserve being removed. And if he has, please tell us so that we can make a better and informed judgment.
Well, Cindy in Buffalo, New York, thank you so much for being so patient and waiting throughout the break. What is your question for Father?
Hi, Father. My question concerns, because this whole situation with Bishop Strickland reminds me of Padre Pio's situation where he was removed. because of certain situations where people, I don't know how to put it correctly, but I was just wondering, how do you feel that this is comparable to Padre Pio, what happened to him, and how Padre Pio, his situation was rectified? But Bishop Strickland is a wonderful man, and Padre Pio was obviously a wonderful man. So how do you feel about that? I would appreciate your answer. Thank you very much, and for all that you do.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I don't know that we can compare the two cases in terms of accusations or measures taken against Padre Pio or against Bishop Strickland. We can certainly say, though, in the history of the church, there are people who have been subject to, treatment that they didn't really deserve, and whether that was realized at the time or not. The saints, of course, when they suffer from the problems in the life of the church that affect them, there's a combination of responding and say, well, I want to defend justice, but on the other hand, I also will accept the cross in my life. I know Bishop Strickland has given an interview in which he has basically tried to say he's going to follow the will of the Lord and he'll accept this cross, and he wants to continue to work for the good of the church. So comparison in this case I really can't make. What I can say and repeat is that based on what we know, it's a mystery why he was removed, and until the Holy See clarifies that, all we can do is speculate, and speculation can lead to wrong conclusions. But let's be blunt and say it's troubling when Bishop Strickland is targeted for investigation and removal, and yet people like Cardinal Hollerich, who said that the Catholic Church is teaching homosexuality is not true, that it's wrong. Cardinal Hollerich still continues as the Archbishop of Luxembourg, even though he denied Catholic teaching, and would say there's a lack of justice here. Someone who is known to uphold Catholic teaching is subject to scrutiny and removal. Someone who denies Catholic teaching is given powerful role in the church and continues to exercise that. That's something very wrong here in the life of the church.